How many of you believe that information is a wealth? Show me some hands. Thank you. I see few hands. I strongly believe information is one of the greatest wealth that we can have. The information that you have, the information that you inherited from your parents, your grandparents, the information that you gained from your community, it is going to help you make a better judgment, to create your future, to focus on something. Let me share the story from my experience.
1982, 84, that time, there was a scholarship program in my village. It is called, we used to refer that as a merit program. It is from the government of Tamil Nadu, for the rural area kids only. It is not available for anyone in the city, urban area. The intention is to motivate the rural area kids and to encourage them so they don't drop out. They go to that high school. After 8th grade, they will conduct one exam. It is a taluk level. You can think of taluk as a county equivalent to more or less. They conduct a taluk level exam, government exam. They select 4 people. So they may attend like 100 people, 200 people. The first 4 will get like 2,000 to 3,000 rupees per year. I'm not sure, but that's it. It's not even a maximum of 5,000. Anybody know that, how much it is? Yeah, it's around that. So it's not about the money. If you convert that 3,000 per year, they will give for like 4 years. Maybe it will come around 200 Indian rupees nowadays. How much dollar value? Can anyone put on dollar value to that? 200 rupees? Yeah, so monthly you will get $2, $3, that's it. So thanks to whatever's going on with the government, but that's all now that value is. So it is not about the money, it is about the motivation. But that's not the story that I don't want. My intention I want to give the other side of the story. This is a government program. It is available to everyone from that village or a rural area. But most of the village, they are not aware of this information. It is a well-kept secret within the teacher community. All the teachers' kids, they go. Their friends, they go. Even if there are like friends, they study well, but just because they don't know the existence of this program, they miss out. See, like you participate in a race, you come as a last person, that's okay. But by not knowing this information, you are not even eligible, or you miss a chance to participate, correct? So luckily my father was a teacher and he is all about this, and from my early days, so he made sure that I go through this program. Yes, I got the scholarship. I went to high school. So high school, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. Let's fast forward. What happened there? Some interesting story. What happened was, in that time, all I know was some engineering college. I know Madurai Engineering, Tyagaraja Engineering College. If anyone from Madurai, they know that. And we have a medical college. And there is arts college, American college. Yes, there is an American college in Madurai. Still, it's one of the best arts college. So myself and my father reach of information is only this much. So we were aiming for that. But there are few friends, they are aiming for something called IIT and Anna University. I didn't know that. So when the information came to me, it was too late. Maybe I didn't regret now for not going to IIT. There's lots going on there. But somehow I end up in one engineering college. Let's fast forward to final year of the engineering college. So when I was studying in engineering college, my father, he was a teacher. He passed only 8th grade, and I'm the first graduate from my family, father side, mother side, the whole village, or you take like maybe 100 villages in that area. I'm the first graduate. So my father used to tell only 2 things. Nalla padipa, fail airada. Study well, don't fail. That's all he know. He don't know how the college works. Even he don't know after finishing college where to go. He will say, his aim was very simple. Get some government job. Maybe transportation engineer, AE, or maybe like something like that. That's all. So you cannot dream about something if you don't have the information. So to dream about something, you need to have some reference point. How many of you know Mount Whitney? Okay, I see one hand. So if somebody says, I want to climb Mount Whitney, that is my dream, you cannot say that because you don't have the basic reference information. Unless otherwise you have some reference point, you cannot even dream about that. So the information is a wealth. And after getting that information, what you do with this second question? So the information that you have, information that you inherited your parents, grandparents, it is going to make your life better, and it's going to help your kids, grandkids generation better. I'm not talking about money at all. So having that information, it is very important. So I went through that. So somehow, like the 4th year college, I was preparing for some government AE, assistant engineer position. My father was trying very hard how to get apprenticeship, something like that. So, but there is another set of friends, maybe 3, 5%, 10%. They are writing something called TOEFL, GRE, which I didn't know because I'm from the village background. I used to wonder, guys, where were you this time? You didn't share this information. They play with me. They do all the nonsense with me, but the night time they study something called JRE, TOEFL. They came here before me. Okay, somehow I ended up in USA, that's fine. So things are good now. So the reason I am doing this show is I want to share the information that what I learned through my kids. So I don't want to feel anyone left out. So no matter who you are, no matter like how much you are earning, information is well. Sometimes we have a blind spot. It happens. It happened to me. So after coming here with my first kid, my wife and myself, whatever we learned in India, it becomes irrelevant here. So we need to start from scratch. What is an elementary school, preschool, play school? In the preschool, there are church-based school, and elementary school, magnet school, and charter school, and the neighborhood school. So all these things overwhelming. Somehow, like we learned, we did a lot of stupid mistake. And so now my son is in college, and so we left our son in college. I cried actually. When we are coming back, myself and my wife, we are looking back at the van. There is another person in our car. My God, we forgot we have a second daughter. It happens. First generation parents, we put everything, we try everything, we mess up the first kid. Yes, and we mess up our life also. We did all the stupid mistake. You get the information from all variety of the people, and you try to experiment that poor kid, and we mess their life, and we kill everything in the whole home, house. It goes on like that. So I realized. Then after that, I apologized to my son. I said, I'm not going to do that to my daughter. So now what I'm doing is, every week, whether my daughter likes it or not, I take her to coffee with the daughter. Sometimes she don't talk. That's fine. Let's sit. So we went to all the coffee shop. So because then I realized, no one told me this kind of information when I came to US. There are a lot of things happening. They go to the dance stage and they dance around. And it's always bothering me. There is a elder generation living here. They never told me, hey, this is how system works. You don't need to mess up your kids. They'll be okay. Just take a back seat. Nobody told that. Because let's say that I have a college kid and a high school daughter, and so all our friends are at the same age group. We go as a batches, correct? So this, let's say 40 years group, it goes like that, and 30 years group, it's coming, and the 50, we don't look back, and we don't share the information with them. Always, let's say that I have a friend with the same age group kids, what can he do to me? Like, he cannot help me because he is in the same place. So that's the reason we decided to share the information. So we don't want to record anything because we have a professional recorder. The video recording is going on. And so sit and enjoy and ask the question to the panelists. And now I give the floor to the panelists. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Again, sorry for the delay, but we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Arvind. I'm a freshman at Georgia Tech down in Atlanta. I'm a first-year freshman, and I'm majoring in environmental engineering with a minor in computer science.
My name is Abi Manhas. I am a freshman at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and I'm doing a double major in computer science and business administration.
My name is Shrikar Nanduri. I am a freshman at North Carolina State University, and I'm doing a double major in human biology and economics. And I'm also a recipient of the Park Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship to North Carolina State University. Yeah.
My name is Vinayak. I also go to North Carolina State University, and I'm doing a double major in computer science and math.
So we wanted to start off today by first questioning you guys about why did you guys sign up for this event? Why did you guys choose to come here today? Anyone raise your hands, and the volunteers will kind of hand out mics.
See, I'm here to get information. I have a daughter who is a sophomore in Enloe, so as he said, the one before who introduced, yeah, I'm still experimenting with her, so getting knowledge. That's it.
And anyone else?
Say one more.
Yeah. Someone else go on the mic. Bobby, you're up.
Hi, I'm here because I can totally relate to whatever the other person told me. Like, I had my schooling completely in India, and whatever the system here is completely unrelatable. Like, I'm trying to get as much information as possible. Like, I have a rising middle schooler, and last week when we were traveling in the car, he asked me, like, how do I get a scholarship? Because I told him we cannot pay for his tuition completely. He asked me, how do I get a scholarship? And that is the question that brought me here.
Thank you. The next question we want to go to is, this is for more of the students. What do you guys see yourself doing in college? Feel free to raise your hand.
Anyone.
Anyone.
Yell it out if you're scared.
Yeah.
We'll call on people. Shri, what about you?
Shri?
Architecture?
Sounds good.
Anyone else?
No need to be shy.
Ajay, what do you think, man? Sounds good.
Okay, cool.
Anyone else?
We'll take one more.
Public health.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, I think it's really cool that a lot of you guys already kind of know what your interests are and what you guys think you want to be doing. It's also good to know that, like, going into college, you should always have an open mind as to the things that you might be doing in the future. Because a lot of times college students will, like, change their majors like 1, 2, maybe even 3 times throughout their college careers. So it's important to not feel locked down to one thing. Always be open to new experiences and new fields that you learn about while you're in college. So for me, for example, I actually applied to North Carolina State University as a biomedical engineering major. And then a week in, I realized, like, oh my God, I hate this. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So within a week, I was already switching my major to human biology and economics because I found those two to be way more interesting. So just keep an open mind. And you might also find that whatever you're interested in right now is still what you're interested in and you still want to pursue that. And that's good. It just depends on the person and the experience that you have.
And our final question is, what do you guys see yourself doing after college? Like, why is the reason you're going to college, and then what's your goal after that?
Let's get 2 different people this time.
Yeah, someone new. There's no wrong answers here, so.
You can
All
also
right,
not
you
know.
can choose a student and hand it to him.
Student, okay.
Choose one of the
Or Vish, you can answer yourself.
What was the question?
The last one. What do you see yourself doing after college?
I really don't know. Probably something in the STEM field, because
Working in industry, not
Yep.
grad school, med school.
maybe med school, actually.
Okay.
All right, now go ahead and choose someone. Or you can choose a volunteer too. It's up to you.
I don't really know. No, but you got it.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay to not know.
Yeah.
Like y'all are extremely young, so it's fine if you have no idea.
Maybe like a job, I don't know. Not clue.
Vish.
So I'm way past college. I just want to say, what if the answer is I don't know?
So that's what we actually wanted to get to.
Right? Because I'm pretty sure a bunch of us can relate to our children. They wouldn't know. And as a personal experience, I got to know pretty late in my life. Yeah. So the answer could be that we don't know.
And that's actually the point that we exactly wanted to get to and actually go further on the fact of not knowing what you're going to do after college.
So even if you don't get into your like dream school, you can always transfer and find out like a school with a better program or a better field that you want to be in. So like even if it is late in your career or late in your college career, you can always transfer to a different school of your liking. As long as you work hard, you'll end up where you want to be.
Yeah, and your career will end up working the same way. A lot of what college is about is figuring out what you're actually passionate about and what you're actually interested in. A lot of people don't even know after they leave college what they want to do, and it takes them a little bit more time to figure that out. And that's totally okay. It just depends on who you are as a person. If you have a bunch of things that you're interested in, try all of them out and see what you're interested in. That's really what college is all about. You're not just trying to focus on one specific thing. You're trying to get kind of a broad perspective on everything, all the different fields that you're interested in, and see which one you really could see yourself being happy in a career in the future.
So we're going to go ahead and get started. One of the biggest things we're going to be talking about today is balance, whether that be in your middle school, high school life, just in life in general, and especially in college. So being in college, you're going to see a balance between four major things. One that would be like Greek life and parties. Another one would be athletics, football, basketball, track, whatever you want to watch. Another thing would be studying abroad. Most college students take the opportunity to go ahead and go across to Europe, maybe Asia, South America, any place you want to go. Learn a new language, learn a new culture, learn something new from different people. And last but not least, the academic and club aspect of college itself. So you want to have a good balance of all four things, and we're going to be discussing all four things today and how to balance it in high school or middle school.
All right, so now we're going to be talking about the actual college application and what goes into that. So obviously the biggest component of the college application is going to be academics, and the core of that is going to be your GPA, your test scores, and what your courses are. So that should include a lot of AP courses and honors level courses. So your GPA and your test score kind of function as a benchmark, and they kind of set your target zone of colleges. What this means is if you have like a 1600 perfect score on the SAT and you have all A's, a 4.0 weighted or unweighted GPA, that means you're going to be applying to a lot of the top schools, and your safety schools might be around NC State, UNC Chapel Hill area. If you have a different GPA or a different score, you're going to be adjusting your college list based on that. And your courses, you should be taking a lot of AP courses that are relevant in your field of study, because one, they will boost your GPA. So AP courses are usually weighted higher than honors courses and standard courses. So your GPA gets an extra boost if you get an A in an AP course. They also provide college credit for introductory college courses, and they also help you get used to like the rigorous nature of college courses. So talking about the courses you should be taking in high school, if you want to do engineering or computer science in college, you should be definitely taking AP Physics, chemistry, calculus, and stat in high school, because you will get a lot of credit from a lot of colleges for introductory level classes if you take these AP classes. And if you're just in middle school, aim to enter high school taking Common Core Math 3, because that should set you on track to graduate with Calculus BC. And if you're doing humanities or liberal arts in college, still take a lot of relevant AP courses. If you want to do political science, take government and politics. If you want to do neuroscience, take AP psychology. So just keep it relevant and don't overload. And
Yeah.
Shrika's going to talk about pre-med.
So I'm sure like there's a decent amount of people who are here who are probably pre-med or like planning on going into like a business major or something like that. So just like a heads up, in college, pre-med and business are not really majors, they're more tracks. So that basically means you can major in literally anything you want as long as you take all the prerequisites for those like majors and courses. So for example, like pre-med, if you're planning on doing pre-med or something like that, you can be like an economics major and still be pre-med. Like you can take all the economics courses that you want, but as long as you're fulfilling taking the courses that like medical schools would be asking you for, like chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, anatomy and physiology, things like that, then you're still good to go for applying to medical school and things like that. And business is the same way.
Yeah, for business, it's more like you have like 7 different tracks. So you have business information management systems, or like business econ, business finance, business accounting. It's not like you graduate with a business degree, because what does that mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so another big part of your application is extracurricular activities. So a lot of people kind of think that like grades are most of the weight on a college application. Like if you get straight A's, oh, you're guaranteed to get into this school or that school. But extracurriculars do play a pretty big role in determining in your application. Because they want to see that you're not just focused on grades. They want to see like you as a picture of you as a whole person, as opposed to just that you do well academically. They want to see that you're interested in other things outside of school as well. So those can include things like clubs, sports, and volunteering. So to take me as an example, I was the co-president of the Key Club at my school. At my high school, and that was kind of one of my big extracurriculars, and I was very involved in that. So like taking leadership positions is kind of like a very big aspect of that as well.
So what we would like to highlight about what Shrieker said about Key Club is something we know is every high school here, including our school is a charter school, especially every Wake County Public School has a Key Club. If you guys take this into perspective, in that Key Club, there's around 200 to 300 people per high school, right? And then how many high schools? Well, I live in Morrisville, and I have Panther Creek and Green Hope within 5 minutes of me, right? So already there's around 600 to 1,000 students that are in Key Club. So within like a 2-mile radius, if you have 1,000 Key Club students, does that actually make you stand out? It absolutely does not. So by putting that you're in Key Club makes no difference in your college resume. Instead, if you take that leadership position like Shrieker did, there's only one president, and maybe there's a vice president, or being on the chair of Key Club. That's what makes a difference and shows that you're passionate about something, instead of just putting, hey, I was in Key Club, because sure, we all were in Key Club, so it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, so the best way to do that is really to kind of like, when you get into high school, or like like whether you're in like 9th or 10th grade or whatever you're doing, you can like start as a member of the club, but you should always be shooting to be more than just a member of the club. You should be shooting to be somewhere like on the upper levels, like the chairs or something. Yeah. Should we take questions now or just wait till the end? Yeah, we'll take questions near the end. So if you like, just remember it.
Along those lines, like along with clubs like Key Club, which are based on volunteering, there are clubs like Science Olympiad or Quiz Bowl. So I bet that there are definitely some kids in here that are involved in Science Olympiad already. So that's definitely a good thing that colleges like to see. But again, think about it. How many kids are doing Science Olympiad just in North Carolina alone? You go to the state competition and there are 50 schools there, each with like 20 to 25 kids. So you have to make yourself stand out. So continuing with Science Olympiad, if you start in 9th grade, sticking with it all 4 years of high school, continued success. So don't just do Science Olympiad. Do it well, go to the competition, win the awards, get first place, second place. Like, try really well. And like, let your passions show through that too. If you're really interested in electricity or circuits, do that event, do really well, and maybe even write an essay about it. Write one of your college essays about it. Write how Science Olympiad inspired you to teach yourself about circuits and circuit design or something. So continued success, and also move up the ladder. Like Shrieker said, if you start out as a freshman on like the junior varsity Science Olympiad team, like try to make it on the board or at least the varsity team by your upperclassmen years.
Also, you don't want to pick all your clubs just based off competitive nature, or basing your clubs off of like getting a resume builder. We all were in Model UN, which is like a mock United Nations conference where we all pretended to be like countries and debate over world policy. And it was really fun. It was a good time. But don't make all your clubs that either, but find a good balance in having clubs that you find fun and entertaining as well.
And on the same note of competitive academic clubs, there's also athletics and sports. And alongside that, whether you're involved in athletics in your high school or outside of high school, it's in other club. If you plan on including athletics in your college resume, it's along the same lines as Vinayak was saying for Science Olympiad. If you just join, because I've heard a lot of people just like join track or join swimming, and they're on the track team. But the thing is, everyone's like, there's 500 kids on the track team and like in Cary. So are you placing at states? So before you put it on your college resume, have you got an award at states? Have you been to regionals? Have you been up on the podium with a medal? And those things show up on the news. So the colleges can look you up. If for swimming, I swam. So if you go to college swimming, you'll find all your times and all your records. So if you don't have that, don't put that on your resume. At the same time, I don't say it's like you can just go have fun. We all play basketball together, right? We do it for fun. We're not going to put it on the resume, but at the same time, you can have fun with it. But if you choose to do athletics for college, make sure you're doing it at a competitive level. At the same time, there's a whole talk about athletic scholarships. If you do an athletic scholarship, that means you're signing up for that college as that sport as your number one priority, not your academics. So the college will treat you that same way, where they first prioritize your sports and your sports practices over your classes. If that is a route you want to take, go ahead and do it. It's a really fun route. That's a completely different experience than that one that we have, but that's also a doable route. But remember what you're doing when you do choose that track. And lastly, what we want to talk about is, in coincide with sports, is music.
So yeah, like the main point I want to make here is that the word extracurricular is extremely like very, very open-ended. Like you can do almost anything you want to do and call it an extracurricular activity as long as it's outside of school. Like you could like have a passion for like making things out of Legos. And if you really feel that way, then like put that down as an extracurricular. Like it's something that you can actually talk about. As long as it's something that you can actually talk about and you're genuinely passionate about, make sure that you're doing it. So like for me, I'm like part of a band. Like me and Abhi like started a band like in like 10th grade, and we've been like
working on it for like the past 3 years.
Yeah,
and
it kind of started out as just a hobby, and now like we're on like streaming platforms like Spotify and SoundCloud, and we have like over 3 million streams across all of them. So like make sure that whatever you're doing extracurricular wise, you're actually passionate about it. Because when you write about it on your college applications and things like that, they're not looking for you to say like, oh, I won this like award and it's all great and everything like that, if you're not actually passionate about it and you're not actually interested in what you're doing. Because if you're not, they can see right through it. So make sure that whatever you're doing is something you're actually passionate and interested in, because it's good for you, but it's also good for colleges because they get to know what you're actually interested in.
And the final point we want to cover is quality over quantity on the topic of volunteering. For that part, we want to highlight Cary Teen Council. A lot of students do Cary Teen Council, but if you're just a normal member at Cary Teen Council, you're, again, 1 in 500. We actually have a couple board members of Cary Teen Council on our panel here today. Again, that made them stand out in the idea of quality over quantity. But Cary Teen Council does a lot of events where it's just kind of mass hours, and they say the more hours you have, the better it is. Raleigh Charter High School our principal kind of went against that idea and said, how about you do something where maybe you just volunteer 1 hour a week? That 1 hour a week, you go to a hospital and work with patients, or you work at a food bank and you work with the homeless. That says a lot more about your personality and your character and what you're working towards, rather than selling Chick-fil-A at like some flag stand for Cary Teen Council. So think about that when you're doing volunteering events, because again, saying I had 120 volunteer hours in a month does not look as good as saying I changed a patient's life by working an hour a week at maybe Rex Hospital or something like that. Next topic is academic misconduct. So along the lines of this topic, again, this is something you never want to have to deal with in high school.
Yeah, we want to preface this by saying like we don't condone academic misconduct or anything like that.
And doing this, so if you get caught for any of this in middle school, it absolutely does not matter. But when you do get caught for this in high school, it goes on your college transcript. We're going to start off with honor code violations. So honor code violation is usually from plagiarism, cheating. Whatever happens, happened, right? So personally, I got caught for one honor code violation sophomore year of high school. And the time it happens, it kind of seems big because you have to submit in with your Common App essays. I plagiarized. And thinking about that, like, that makes you stand a lot lower. And I just thought, all right, at this point, I'm not going to get into college. Like, everything's gone. What am I going to tell my parents? Because before I could think of that, the teacher called my mom and said, hey, we got him, like, we caught him for cheating, right? And my mom was like, what are you doing? Like, you're a sophomore and you already messed up. The idea behind this is if you mess up early on, like I messed up early on, so I could write about this as change. And then I'm going to cover the topic on how to frame these going in.
So other kinds of disciplinary infractions could be like suspensions or expulsions. Hopefully you don't get expelled. That would be very difficult to explain to colleges, okay? But I personally, so all my friends know this story. In 10th grade, the same year when Arvin got his honor code, I skipped a 25 like my dad's in the back and he's like listening to this story. But when I got home at like 3:30. I was pacing outside of my house for like 20 minutes wondering how am I going to face my parents. But the like takeaway from this story is that it's like all fine in the end. Like it doesn't influence your college admissions as much as you think because you have the ability to explain your mistake. And if you do it early, like Arvin said, you can frame it as a learning experience. If you cheat as a senior, like on your midterm, halfway like through the year, that's very difficult to explain. You're like very mature at that point. So like that's not the time for mistakes. But if you do make a mistake in your earlier years, you can frame your essay that you write about it on the common application as a story about change and learning. And colleges will see that and it will shine like a positive light on your application rather than seem like a blemish.
Can I have the point? Actually, you point too. No.
So Vinayak, can you tell like the college can see that even if they don't mention that?
Yeah, so being more specific about this, when you're doing the common application, you will have to check a little box that says, there are different boxes, but have you ever been given a suspension? Have you ever been expelled? And then there's a little drop-down box of 400 words where you can write a small essay and explain. If you check no and you have been expelled or you have been suspended or you have gotten an honor code violation, colleges can still see that because it goes on your transcript. So they'll know that you are lying and that does not reflect very well on your character.
You'll just end up putting yourself in a worse situation
Yeah.
if you lie about it than if
You might actually get blacklisted.
That's a true statement.
And also some colleges, even if you've gotten the suspension or expulsion expunged from your record, like maybe in 9th grade, you got suspended for doing something you shouldn't be doing. You skipped a whole day of school. Some schools allow you, some high schools allow you to get it expunged after 2 years or 2.5 years. So they take it off of your record. So right in time for college applications. Some colleges still require you to admit that you have gotten that suspension even though it's not on your transcript. Because if they do find out somehow, if they contact your school counselor and they talk to your counselor and he reveals that, then it does not reflect very well on you again. So you just have to be careful and upfront with it. It's not something to hide, it's just something to learn from and overcome.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about the actual application itself. So there's several like websites that you'll be using throughout the application process. Wait, weren't you supposed to talk about this?
This is actually my slide. But so the different websites that you'll definitely need to keep track of. There are several different application portals. So these are where you're going to be actually typing in your essays, putting in all your information, your legal documents, and like the main important things. So that's going to be the common application, the coalition application, and the universal application. So these are application hubs where several different schools are, they belong to one of those three, and you can do one general application for all of the schools and then a couple of school-specific questions. And you can do the school-specific questions on the respective portal as well. Also, some colleges have their own portals. They don't belong to any of those. So you'll also have to keep track of those. Other websites are going to be College Board and Scriborder. So College Board you'll be using to sign up for the SAT, checking your AP scores, sending your AP scores, sending your SAT scores. So you should be on top of that and keep your account information secure. You should also know what Scriborder is. It may not be relevant right now, but when you're applying to college, you'll be sending your transcript to your different colleges through Scribborder. So that is also something you should keep track of. So bookmark all of these and keep your account information secure and be up to date on all of these. Check them frequently, check the notifications, and be up to date.
The essays that you're gonna have to write for your college apps, the short ones are gonna be like 200 to 250 word essays, and for USC and some like Ivy League schools, they'll have like small prompts that like explain your personality more. Then the long essays are like the Common App essay. It's like a 650 word essay where you just explain like who you are. It gives you like a personality, because like you don't get an interview with all these colleges. Like they don't know who you are or like what your ambitions are either. You just have to kind of like tell them who you are through your essays. So it kind of gives them a personality to an application. Sending grades, you need to talk to your college counselors to get them to send your grades to these colleges, because these college counselors have like 400 kids to look over, and like if they're not going to give all their time to like you, so you have to get their attention and ask them to send it for you. And then scores, what Vin said, use College Board, ACT.org to get your SAT and AP scores sent to the colleges that you want. Important thing for all juniors, how many juniors are in this room right now? In February, you're all going to take the ACT. It's a county-wide exam or statewide exam, but it's provided for free. Study for that exam because it's free and you can send your scores to the colleges that you want to for free. If you take another ACT, you're going to have to pay for it, one, and then you're also going to have to pay for you sending your scores to those colleges. So make sure you study for the one that's coming up.
Yeah, so if you do well in that one, you'll not have to take another ACT or SAT like again. So it's a good thing to look out for.
Also, a small point. Some of you may know that you don't have to take both the ACT and the SAT. If you've just taken one and you're satisfied with that score, you can only submit that. Like if you have a high enough SAT score and your ACT score is lower than you'd like, colleges don't even need to know about your ACT score. You only submit your SAT. So like Abhi said, because this one is free, it's offered to you, study for it. You can also send it to up to 4 colleges, I think. So if, like, it's kind of early, but if you have a rough idea of at least 4 colleges that you'd like to apply to, maybe in-state ones like Chapel Hill or NC State, definitely like send it to them because you'll have to pay, I think, $12 per college
Like
later
15.
on. So yeah.
And one more
Maybe it's
thing
more than
on
that,
the
like
line
that.
of choosing a test to send. If you do take the SAT, which is a popular test, make sure you check the college. And if you're doing engineering, computer science or something, they have a list of subject tests that they do want to see, especially because the ACT includes a science section, but the SAT doesn't. So if you're a sophomore or a junior, that should be the first thing you do, and find out the subject tests and start working on those. Because many colleges want at least 1 or 2, and some like Georgetown want 3. So you're going to want to look at that before you get all the way close up to that point where you're kind of running out of time. All right, so the next part is choosing a college. A lot of people just kind of like look at like the top names and just click apply. That's definitely not what you want to do. So we're going to go ahead and first talk about the major differences between an in-state college and an out-of-state college. I go to an out-of-state college, and everyone else here goes to an in-state college. But the biggest thing you're going to notice is we're going to start off with the money aspect. In-state college is a lot cheaper. Like tuition is going to be around like $12,000 compared to an out-of-state being around $30,000. So it's a huge jump. At the same time, you're also a lot closer to your home. If you're someone that likes to come back home a lot or be around your family, or you don't do your own laundry, so you come back and tell your mom to do your laundry or something like that, going to NC State or Chapel Hill would be the idea. But if you're more responsible and have the ability to do that, you can go outside. I'm not saying that people that are here are not responsible, because everyone here is responsible. But there are some people I know that can't do their own laundry, so it's good to keep them close to home. Another thing is a lot of your friends from like surrounding schools are going to be going to in-state schools, because majority of students do go to in-state schools. So you'll see a lot of familiar faces. At the same time, you'll see a lot of new faces. But the thing is, the idea is if you're like an introverted person and have a hard time making friends, then pushing yourself into like a random pool of new people might scare you and might leave your mental health in a lower stance than you want. So then you would choose an in-state school. Out-of-state schools. So the hardest part is they're a lot of money. Private schools are like $80,000. Out-of-state state schools are like 40,000. So it's still a ridiculous amount of money. If you get a scholarship, that's props to you. If you don't, well, welcome to majority of our boats. Another thing is connections. So going to an out-of-state school, I walked in, didn't know anyone, not a single soul. I think I had 2 people that I knew in the entire college that has like 36,000 people. So 2 out of 36,000 I knew. So I knew no one. That's one of the reasons I did join a fraternity, because that helped kind of make my connections, helped me get like a social circle that I could rely on. They were my new family on campus, which is how I described it to my parents. Another thing is you'll be completely out of your comfort zone. So it's a new city, new state. I had to use Google Maps to walk to classes. I had to use Google Maps to literally like walk across the street because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how to do anything there. New stores, new everything. I looked for a hair cedar. The closest one was in North Carolina, right? That's 6 hours away. So I started using Publix and like things like that. It's completely new, but if that is something that you want to do, like go out, try something new, because what I learned from this was now if I ever need to go to like a new state for like a job, I know what I'm doing because I know people there. I just know how to like join that area, make friends, find clubs to go to, and like have fun, that kind of thing.
I'm just gonna add like a quick side note, kind of related to that. Like, definitely do not let the fact that you have people you're comfortable here deter you from leaving and going somewhere else, because a lot of college is about experiencing new things, and you're gonna undoubtedly be put in some uncomfortable situations. So being just open to that, again, like the idea of open-mindedness, being open to every experience that college ends up giving you is always a good idea. So definitely don't be like, oh, like all my friends are here, so I'm just gonna stay here, right? If you want to go out of state, go out of state. Like that's it just depends on who you are as a person and what you're comfortable with and how far you want to push yourself through college. So
Okay, when deciding which college you want to go to, make sure you take campus into a factor. Do you like a gothic, rustic kind of look? Then apply to Duke, because Duke looks like Hogwarts. If you like a more brick and mortar school like UNC Charlotte or NC State, something with like new campuses and new construction being built constantly, apply to NC State, apply to UNC Charlotte. And if you want something in the middle, apply to Chapel Hill, because they have an old campus, but it's being renovated as well. So campus life also will, like the city that you're in, the town that you're in also dictates how campus life is going to be. UNC Chapel Hill is like a college town run completely, like all the operations are based around the college. App State is kind of like that. If you want to go to Boone, if you want to go to the mountains, they have King Street, which is like the Hillsborough for NC State, or the Franklin for UNC. Take all of those into account when you're applying to college, because you really want to be in love with the campus that you're going to. You don't want to be going to some place where it's kind of dreary or ugly and you're just like, I want to get out of here. So I chose Charlotte because it's about 8 miles away from the city, so you can go to uptown Charlotte, and you can go to the financial district or the shopping district whenever you want. It's connected by the light rail. The campus is completely new. We have a completely new campus, so like everything's really clean, everything's well lit, and there's like a lot of the drive there is actually really pretty too. But the scenic parts of the University of North Carolina at Charlotte are really nice. And yeah,
that's one of the reasons Abby actually picked UNC Charlotte over NC State, because of the business opportunities available at UNC Charlotte, since it's like one of the top hubs for business. And as a business major, he would have a lot more opportunities there. So think about that when you choose. So if you go to a business school and it's in the middle of nowhere, you're setting yourself up for failure. And the next part that's definitely important is the size of the school. We came from a really small high school, 500 students at Raleigh Charter High School. I walked into an undergraduate freshman class of around 4,000 students. I was used to seeing like the same people every day, say hello to everyone in the halls. Didn't really matter. I'd run into the same person almost every day, so you had to be friends with them, friends with pretty much everyone in the school. But at Georgia Tech, I run into someone one day, and if I was mean to them, it doesn't matter because I'm not going to see them ever again, right? That's not what I'm trying to say with the idea of this, but the goal is like you're gonna have to get ready for a new atmosphere. In line of teachers, Raleigh Charter teachers were great because they have like 20 students, so they can give a lot of their time to each one of you. That was a big shock for me when I went to Georgia Tech. Was a lot of professors don't really care who you are because there's like 500 of you in a class, and they have like 3 of those classes, so you're just one in like 1,500. They're there to do their research. If you do approach them about research opportunities, though, there's tremendous amounts because that professor has around like 5 or 6 grad students, and those grad students have like 5 or 6 TAs. So there's a lot of people up on that ladder they can reach out to about these opportunities. So that was definitely one good thing. But think about that. If you're someone that likes to have good relationships with your professors and teachers, pick a small college, not a big one. And last but not least is where your campus is located. So as we know, the U.S. is split up pretty well politically and kind of weather-wise. If you don't like it being cold, don't apply to northern schools. You're going to be miserable because you're living 4 years there, and if you hate the snow and you're at Dartmouth, you're going to see snow all the time. However, if you hate it being hot and humid, don't go to Florida because that's how it is going to be. So think about the weather before you go there. If you don't have money at the start and you want to pay for travel costs, like a flight from North Carolina to California after every break, think about that before you apply to UCal. So those are some thoughts you want to have. Another thing is think about the political culture at each school. So every school has a different political culture, and if you're open-minded and willing to try new things, definitely don't worry about that. But if you have a strong political mindset and want to go somewhere that abides by what you believe in, think about that before you go there. So if you go to a school in Dallas, Texas, imagine what the life would be like instead of going to like NYU in New York or Fordham in New York. It's a completely different kind of life.
Okay, so college rankings. Don't apply to Yale if you want to be an engineer because their engineering program is not top 10. In fact, a lot of people think that this website, Best College US News and Rankings, is like the website that'll dictate like how your college stands. A lot of good college programs come from schools whose mainstay is that college program and nothing else. Harvard is good at everything, but like UIUC, Urbana-Champaign in Illinois, they have a top tier engineering program, but they're ranked like number 100 or number 120, even though they rank higher than Yale in the engineering department. So just think about that before you apply to schools. Like you want to apply to a place where you'll probably get a job like right out of college, or you'll get an internship your junior year. Don't apply to, like, let's say, don't go to UNC to become an engineer, even though they're ranked higher than NC State. Like you just have to choose based off the college program of like that you want.
So another thing is, as we're talking about these rankings, colleges will have their rankings on their website, and that's the one you should trust. If a college is ranked in something, they're definitely going to put it on there. Like even Arizona State University put #1 in virtual learning, right? We know they're the #1 party school, but they are going to put #1 in something because that's how they sell their college to other people.
Exactly. These ranking websites are actually paid by other colleges to make them seem more higher than they actually are. Like think about it as capitalism. They're gonna ask outside sources to promote their product better. It's just who has more money.
Exactly. And another thing that was something new for me when I applied. So let's say you applied to like Duke, or in my case, when you apply to Tech, you're not applying to Duke. You're not applying to Georgia Tech. You're applying to the College of Engineering at Tech, or you're applying to Pratt Engineering at Duke. So keep that in mind. So you're not actually applying to the university. The university is just like a group of colleges. So when I applied to Georgia Tech, I applied to the College of Engineering at Georgia Tech. I did not apply to Scheller College of Business. I did not apply to Ivan Allen College of Liberal Arts. Every college at Georgia Tech has a different acceptance rate. So looking at the acceptance rate on Google will do you no good. Looking at the SAT score on Google will do you no good.
Yeah.
And people go on like Reddit and chats and like, oh, why didn't I get in? Because you looked at the wrong information. But engineering, if you go to the college Tech and you look at their average SAT score, now you're going to get somewhere. Look at their average GPA, now you're going to get somewhere. Another thing, as we're talking about, employment percentage after or at graduation. So every college is going to put that up, and they'll put it on their college's website, not the university website. So at the College of Engineering, it'll say like 95% of students are going to be have a job at graduation. So one thing is a caveat you want to look out for is some colleges will put 95% of students will have a job 6 months after graduation. So think about what that means. That means you're going to graduate, right? You'll throw your hat, you'll have fun. And 6 months, you're going to be at home, right? You're going to be at home and your parents are going to be yelling at you about getting a job, and you're not going to have one because 95% of students get a job 6 months after graduation. However, if you find a school that says 95% get a job at graduation, that means you graduate and you leave and you're having fun already. And your parents are like, oh, I'm proud of my child, right? So that's what you want to look for. Another thing, as Abhi said, is co-ops and internships. These colleges will have the top companies that come on their website. A college loves to say Google and Microsoft was at my internship place. So if Google comes to their internship place, they're going to put it up there. If it's not up there, there's a reason for it. So look for the small things when you find out about your co-ops and internships.
Okay, so the next aspect we're going to be talking about is debt and how much you're going to have to pay for going to college. So this is a very big deciding factor, I'm sure, for a lot of people about where they'll end up wanting to go. So a lot of ways there's a lot of debt. College comes with a lot of debt inherently. But there's a lot of ways you can kind of alleviate that stress and that debt. So those usually come in 3 different forms. It comes from scholarships, work, and loans. So scholarships is kind of the best way to go about looking for scholarships is to just do as much research on them as you can. I know you were asking about scholarships. So I was put in a fortunate enough position to get a lot of different scholarships from a lot of different places, which opened up my opportunities to go to a lot of different colleges as opposed to me having to select just one because one of them cost too much. So, and the way that I did that was I started as early as I could and I started looking for as many scholarships as possible. So I started looking for scholarships, I think, in my sophomore or junior year. And I just ended up going on the internet and just looking up scholarships, full tuition scholarships, full ride scholarships at all these different places. So if you start that early, the opportunities will be endless because you'll have way more scholarships that you'll be able to apply to, and you'll also have a better chance of getting them. So for me, for example, I got a few scholarships from schools in Florida. I got a scholarship from UNC, and then obviously I got the PAR scholarship from NC State. So a lot of that had to factor in a lot to which school I ended up deciding to go to because all of those schools were very good for what I wanted to do, and it was just a matter of who was giving me more money and who was going to provide me with the best education out of all of them. So when you're looking for scholarships, make sure that you're looking for scholarships at schools that you are actually interested in applying to and that are actually good for your major and things like that. But you can also look outside of the school-specific scholarships. You can look through outside scholarship organizations like scholarships.com or Schooly or something like that. There's a bunch of websites that do external scholarships. So looking as early as possible is probably the best advice I can give you in terms of looking for scholarships.
Alongside scholarships is working and loans. So in the terms of work, personally, I worked over the summer and I've been working pretty much every year. I work for the YMCA as a swim coach. It makes good money. For a high school kid, it's flexible hours because all their employees are in high school. And between the summer of graduating senior year and freshman year of college, I had a lot of free time because I wasn't really doing anything. There's not much to do, so I was just working. I worked every day of the week for at least 5 hours each day. I made $4,000 in 3 months, and it was a lot of money, and that money helped a lot when it came to college. I could pay off my fraternity dues through that. I was able to pay off a couple of loans that we got from the federal government. So doing that took the weight off my parents, and I was able to do that myself. So students going out and getting a job now, especially if you're in high school, just start working somewhere. I think we all worked somewhere. Abhi worked as a lifeguard.
I worked at a grocery store. I worked at Harris Teeter, actually.
Yeah, and Vinayak worked at Kumon. So the things are
I also worked at Kumon.
So go get a job. It's important, and you can work while you're in college and start help so your parents don't take the entire debt of the loan. One thing I want to talk about loans is every student is going to get some sort of loan. If you go to an expensive school, you'll get an unsubsidized loan and a subsidized loan. So this loan is actually not a parent loan. It's going to be on you, under your name, under you everything. And the unsubsidized loan works like this. You get the loan every year, but the interest only builds after you graduate. So once you graduate, that's when they start putting on interest, as if it was a new loan. However, a subsidized loan starts interest the second they give it to you. So that's like a normal loan. You get the loan, you start paying interest, which is why I paid off my subsidized loan first, and I'm going to save my money to pay off the subsidized loan next semester instead of putting it on the unsubsidized loan.
That might be the other way around, but that's, are you sure?
Yeah.
The government doesn't subsidize the interest while you're in college?
No.
Yes.
But there's a grace period. There's a 6-month grace period.
No, 6 months grace period to pay when it comes to the minimum payment.
Yeah. Sorry, I flipped it. So it's unsubsidized. So unsubsidized is the one that you pay off. Subsidized, you don't have to pay the loans immediately. Anyways. Yeah.
All adds up as a total amount. From that amount, you pay for the next 10 years, whatever the interest is. So you borrowed, let's say, 200,000. Interest came up to 30,000. So the day they graduate is 230,000. You pay for the next 10 years. You have to pay it in 10 years, and that is like your house payment.
Yeah. So moving on from outstanding debt is how to look at the debt. So one thing is you ask yourself, why would anyone choose an out-of-state college if it's so obvious that this one's cheaper? Like, why don't you just go to the cheapest college? The way you look at this is from the idea of intended majors. So if you are an engineering major, you go to the College of Engineering. If you're a human biology major, you go to the liberal arts college. And they have, based off of survey data, they'll have an average salary that an undergrad student who graduates from that school will make. So if you're paying $40,000 per year to go to that college, and the average salary that the college says that you make after you graduate is around $88,000, now there's a good deal. Now you have a reason to go because you're going to be making more money. It might actually pay off in the end. However, if you're going to go to a private school that costs $80,000 per year and the intended major only gets you like $50,000, that's a waste of your money. It's a waste of your time. Why are you going there? Go to a college that's cheaper so the intended amount of money you're going to make is more than the intended tuition that you're going to be paying. And wrapping it all back up is the work-life balance that we started with. I want to introduce a quote that my swim coach at Tac Titans, they're a team over here, told me. And he said, this was during my sophomore year when I was just messing up life in general. He said, there are 3 S's, and you can only pick 2 out of the 3 if you want to excel. The 3 S's are studies, social, and sports. Sports is the same as music. He used sports because we were swimming.
Just a general extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
So just think about it like that.
And he said, I was like, wait, so you're telling me, and he's like, what are you going to pick? I was like, I mean, I'm going to have to pick studies and sports. And I was like, so you're telling me I can't go hang out with friends and like party? And he said, no, it doesn't mean you can't do all 3. It just means you have to prioritize. So let's think about a week. If it's Friday night, a lot of people hang out Friday night. You're going to have homework Friday night, but the homework's due until Monday. So yeah, you can put that off. But because you have swimming that night and you prioritize sports over social, you're going to have to pick that. Now, Saturday night, I don't have swim practice. Saturday morning, you come back from swim practice. Friday night, you sleep. Saturday morning, what do you prioritize first? Social or studies? Studies, because that comes over social. So you go ahead and finish all your homework during the day. Now, Saturday night, you're done with your homework. You don't have swim practice. What's left? Social. There's nothing in the way of social, so you might as well go out and hang out with friends. So the idea is this is your list of priorities, and your sports and studies should be the first one, or extracurricular and studies should be your first one, and then social comes along. So again, we're not saying don't have fun, because we had a lot of fun when we were in high school, but go ahead and prioritize properly.
Yeah, so kind of going off that, time management is definitely one of the, if not the biggest skill that you need in terms of in high school and in college. And building it up in high school is probably the best way to go about it, because in college, in high school, if you're living at home, you always have your parents around, or like someone is around, or your teacher's around to tell you like, oh, you need to do this homework, you need to do this, you need to go to this practice, you need to do this, whatever, right? When you're in college, you're on your own. You're not no one is going to be there to tell you you need to eat at 7 p.m. and like go to class like in the morning. So time management is going to be one of your biggest friends in college, because if you learn to master time management, you'll find it like a breeze. Everything will be so much easier. Everything will be so much more organized. So like the way that I did it in high school was like I'd go to school. If I had some extracurricular activity or something after school, I'd go and do that. But then as soon as I got home, I'd like eat a snack and then just get straight to work. Like I'd start doing my homework. And then I'd finish my homework and I'd have pretty much the entire evening to just hang out and do whatever I wanted. So doing things like that, setting yourself up early on as opposed to like delaying all of your work and procrastinating to like, I mean, everyone procrastinates. Like I procrastinate sometimes, but it happens sometimes. But for the most part, making sure that you do your work on time and in a way that gives you plenty of free time afterwards will like set you up for success in the future, and also it'll make college and high school so much more fun. Because these 8 years, high school and college, are supposed to be like the best years of your life. You're not just supposed to be working all the time. Like you should definitely be going out and having fun. Because if you're not, you're not really experiencing college or high school.
Like if your whole life goal is to go to a good college, and then after that get a good job, like you're just
college is supposed to be a lot of fun. You shouldn't be always focused on academics, and colleges see that too. So again, like that goes back to like why they ask you for your extracurriculars and why they ask you for a personal essay and things like that, because they don't want you to be only focused on academics or only focused on one specific thing. They want you to be a well-rounded person who has a good personality and a lot of different things that they have going for them.
And to like supplement what Trigger said about being like a well-rounded person, like that last slide that we had was very important. Like that thing about being social, like don't burn yourself out. Like yes, be well-rounded, do a sport, play an instrument, keep up with your studies, but don't burn yourself out. Like keep yourself in like the right like mental capacity, be well-rested, sleep, eat, work out, be healthy, see your friends, and like work hard. But don't just let your studies, like don't study for 5 hours straight. Study for 2 hours, take a break and mix things up. So like keep up healthy strategies to like live your life and keep your lifestyle healthy. So yeah.
One thing that I learned from my macroeconomics class this semester is quality of life, standard of living is dictated by leisure time. The more leisure time that you have, the better your quality of life. So all you have to do is manage your time so that you have the most free time possible. Otherwise, you're just going to end up being bogged down and you're going to be depressed, and you don't want that.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce the rest of our panelists here today. We have TJ Nanagunda. He goes to UNC Chapel Hill. And we actually have a high schooler here today, Suraj Rao. He goes to the NC School of Science and Math. That's an opportunity that many high schoolers that are sophomores or freshmen and even coming in from 8th grade might want to think about. And that's an opportunity that's only available for freshmen and sophomores and not juniors and seniors. So if you guys are thinking about that school or want to learn more or see how life is at that school, we did bring Suraj. On screen, we have Samuel Shindankwa. He goes to Yale University. Unfortunately, he was not able to be here today because he still has finals. But thanks, Sam, for coming here today. Another one is Katie Liu. She goes to the University of Southern California, an amazing school down in California. Her time is 3 hours before, so if it's 11, it's actually 8 a.m. for her, so she woke up around 6 a.m. to get ready for this. So again, shout out to Katie for being here. And we're going to go ahead and open the panel for any questions.
Should we sit down? Yeah. We should sit down.
Basically, if you have any questions about any of the slides, or if you just have any questions in general.
Yeah, and if whoever's talking will stand up, like don't worry. If people in the back, if you can't see, we'll make sure that you do.
Have any of you encountered hazing or racism
In college?
In college.
Okay.
How did you handle that?
So hazing comes in with Greek life, and that's something if you choose to do or not. But personally, I think it's more of a character building experience. I learned a lot about time management. I did learn a lot of different skills. There were some skills. It's my idea with hazing is be open with your parents. It's an opportunity for you to get closer with them. So I did tell my mom and dad everything that was going on. My sister knows too. It's just a different lifestyle. And the idea of racism, We have like a couple of the fraternities are openly racist, and a couple other sororities are also openly racist. A couple of clubs are openly racist. But the idea is, it's something I chose to go down there. I knew what I was getting into. It's something that, like America, you know, we work on it. People have internal ideas of other people. Georgia Tech has a great student culture. So I do think, like, because again, there's like thousands of people at that school. Maybe there's 2,000 of them that's like straight up racist. But the idea is, it's something you learn from. It's something you're gonna interact with in day-to-day life. So interacting with it in college and learning how to overcome that is definitely something you can look towards doing.
At the same time, though, like, I haven't. Like, to be blunt, like, I have not experienced racism and discrimination. Obviously, a lot of people in this country have, but, like, I've been fortunate enough to not. So, like, don't think that it's also, like, a frequent thing. Like, obviously, Arvind at Georgia Tech, it happens to be like that, and that's just something that sometimes goes with, sorry, you guys can't hear me. That's just something that goes with college culture at times, or, like, just how it is, but it's not something that's definitely very prevalent for certain people. It just, if you're lucky or not, almost.
Yeah. And in terms of, like you asked about hazing, if you're not really part of Greek life, like fraternities or sororities, like fraternities or sororities or anything like that, you'd like, that will not happen. Like, you shouldn't be worried about that.
Yeah, that's really not a problem if you're not in a frat or a sorority, and that too, sororities get it much. They're better off than what happens in frats.
Sororities still have it though. Like, they definitely do. But if you're not going to be associated with Greek life, then you shouldn't worry about it.
Oh, they're on mute.
They're on mute, dude.
So we've actually set this up multiple times and never ran into this problem where the projector's on mute. So we're gonna reboot that. And until then, you guys can go ahead and ask these panel the questions.
Wait, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Katie?
Is the question about racism on college campuses?
Yes.
I think it extends past sororities and fraternities. I think there's definitely racism amongst people in general. I feel like it's less apparent in California, just by virtue of being in California. But there are like resources to help you, and there's professors to help you, and there's like Title IX, there's like friends that you can still always be there for your support system.
Yeah, so to like follow with Katie's point, that's definitely a thing to keep in mind when choosing what colleges you're applying to. Because I agree with TJ. In my experience in our area, like the Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Cary area, I haven't experienced any like discrimination or racism on campus. And I know Shrieker can attest to that, but Arvind has, and that's mainly due to like the cultural differences between like our area and that part of Atlanta. And like Katie said, in California, she doesn't see that either. So like when you're applying to different colleges, keep this in mind, like what kind of culture do you want to immerse yourself into?
Any other questions?
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd say, I guess, coming from, probably the most northern liberal, so the type of like the Northeast liberalism, fairly obviously, it's really well masked, and it seems like there'll always be sort of like pushes from the administration to make you feel more included. For example, like before school actually started, I was in a pre-orientation program. You'll find out what those are. Basically, they're like week to 2 week long summer camps before school starts, depending on like a number of different factors. And essentially, there were like 4 or 5 to choose from, but there was only really one that was about like inclusivity, and that was okay. There was only really one that was about inclusivity, and it was called Cultural Connections. And essentially, and in that space, I found that I had the opportunity, essentially, to ground myself before school actually started. But when it did, sort of like the second week of that Thursday, I remember waking up and just seeing the inundation of just like not me. And that was the very first sort of like recognition. Like it pulls you out being in a space like that, and then it just drops you right back in. And from there on out, there are absolutely like no real like active engagements. You have to sort of seek it. And so I'm lucky in that Yale has cultural affinity spaces, right? There's the Asian American Cultural Center. There's like the AFAM House. There's spaces dedicated towards people of certain races, people of certain like creeds, specifically to address the fact that everywhere else is hard to like. It's hard to feel comfortable in to begin with, especially even being here and being not white. Essentially, like you probably have been in a situation where like you were not white in most of your classes, like just getting here. That's going to be the case for pretty much all of you. And it's just sort of important to remember that ultimately, like you're going to repeat it and it's going to sound superfluous, but okay. It's like a long topic.
Give y'all anything. Process, application.
Yes.
Wow.
Some of you said you take 2 majors, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle that? I mean, I think one major itself must be very difficult for you guys.
So yeah, I can kind of talk a little bit on that.
Wait. Talk about how many like credits you came into high school.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big thing. The reason that I kind of set myself up pretty well for a double major is because I came in to college with a lot of college credit through AP courses and things like that. I took a lot of AP exams and did place and like scored well on them. So I placed out of a lot of introductory college courses. So I placed out of introductory biology. I placed out of statistics. I placed out of psychology. I placed out of French. I placed out of a lot of things. I ended up like coming in with like 60 credit hours of college courses already done before I even started college.
120 credit hours are what's like required to graduate. So
Yeah.
we came in as a junior.
So I came in technically as a junior in college. So that kind of comes with a lot of AP courses, but there's also like even if you don't come in with that much credit, there's still a lot of ways that you can do a double major because a lot of majors are less demanding than others. So there's some majors that require slightly less credit hours and some majors that require slightly more. So for example, like I said before, I came into college as a biomedical engineering major. And what I found was that if I did my double major in human biology and economics, I could finish both of those degrees and get a minor before I finished my BME degree. In like the same amount of time that I would finish my BME degree, I could get those 2 degrees plus a minor. So it all depends on like how many courses the specific major at that school requires you to take. But for me personally, just because I came in with so much credit, it's not that demanding. I'm like taking like a pretty decent amount of credit hours every semester, and I don't feel too overloaded or anything like that. So.
And Katie wants to shed some light on her thoughts about double majoring.
I think to shoot this point about coming in with credits, one thing you can do in high school is that you can look at what APs count for gen ed credit. Because for me, I transferred 13 APs, but only 3 of them counted for general education credit, so I still have to take the other general education classes, which makes it harder for me to double major. But I'm trying to double major with business administration, which is the major I'm in right now, and media arts and practice, which is a major in the School of Film. And I want to do it because I have an interest beyond just business, and when I came into college, I was very anxious about what major I wanted to pursue. So I think it's very, very good if you have like multiple different interests. But also, I know a lot of people that are majoring into majors that are similar, which is also great because their credits overlap a lot. So it's way easier for them to major than it is for me because none of my credits overlap at all.
All right. Next question. Oh, if a citizen applies versus a non-citizen applies. So applying as a citizen, you get the access to like the financial aid and stuff that comes through the U.S. government, the federal loans and stuff. You're eligible for that. Also, when you apply as a citizen, you apply as a U.S. student. We actually had a friend who applied that was an Indian citizen. You apply as an international student, and so even if you live here, unfortunately, they require you to take the TOEFL or the GRE to actually apply to a U.S. college. So it's actually a pretty unfair system, personally thinking about it, because you might have grown up and lived here, but especially that friend of ours, she had to take the extra exams that
a person who is applying from India would have to take?
Panelist, when you are asking for a question, ask them to hand over the mic, because event is being recorded. I encourage the audience to speak through the mic, so it's get recorded. So the panelists point out the audience, so the volunteer will hand over the mic. Please follow that. Thank you.
And to kind of go off that question again, like I'm just talking like for the Park Scholarship at least. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but because I don't know if there have been any international students that have applied to the Park Scholarship before, but I'm sure that I feel like you can still apply. I'm not sure. You should definitely check on the website. It depends on the scholarships that you're applying for. Definitely go and look on the websites of each of those scholarships and check if how that works, because I'm sure that you're allowed to apply. It just depends on the process might be a little bit different for you guys, for example. So, any other questions? Yes, you over there.
As a parent, I have a question. Like, what do you expect when you more of high school? Like, you stay at home versus your dorm life. Like, what experiences you guys have?
Okay. So the thing is, like, a lot of us are older siblings, so we had the same question, right? Like, what is college? What do we do in college besides take classes? Like, they say college is this free experience, but what do you do, right? And all of us are either only children or older siblings, except for Suraj here. So we had the same question going in, and it's just a lot of free time. Like, sophomore year, I remember one of my teachers, Miss Newmark, told me, she said, you're gonna have the most free time in your life in college. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. Like, there's no way. But like my daily routine, I have maybe 2 classes in one day, 1 class, 3 classes, depends on my schedule. So like a Monday, I have 2 classes on Monday, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. So what do I do in between my classes? What do I do after, right? So that's up to how my schedule is for the week. If I have a test later, maybe I study for the test. Maybe I sleep, because sleep is actually really, really important. They had 3 S's. Their 4th S should probably be sleep. Yeah. Because sleep in college, you're going to get deprived from typing papers. You're going to be, yeah, I took that from him, sorry. But you're going to be typing papers. You're going to be having fun. You're going to be studying for an exam. You know, you have a lot of different priorities and maybe a lot of people you want to hang out with. And if you don't have a parent like, okay, if you don't have like a parent telling you, you know what, maybe you should stop hanging out with your friends, maybe you should start studying, you don't have that in college. So it's just a simple of, like, I signed up to play spike ball in college. I play soccer all my life, so all I do in college is I play a lot of spike ball, I play a lot of soccer. I also study. But you have to be able to, you're going to, like Shrieker said, the time management issue in high school, it's going to come in. Because in high school, you have less freedom. You have certain clubs you go to. You have certain sports you play. You have certain homework to do, and you don't have that much time.
And at the end of the day, you have to come home to your parents.
Yes.
Which is completely different.
Yeah. So the thing is, in college, that first week, first month, you're going to figure out. There is no structure. Like, the first week or 2, I remember me and my roommate are like, all right, what are we going to do? And we're like, we have no idea. So we're like, all right, let's play basketball. The next day, what should we do? It's like, let's not play basketball again. And you just figure out something to do. So the whole idea of what you should do is that you shouldn't know. It's that you should explore and figure it out for yourself, because different people have different interests. Ever since I was a kid, I've watched sports. I followed sports. I love the numbers in sports. I love sports. Other people don't love sports. I don't understand it, but that's a different issue. You know, the thing is, like, maybe some like following the news, some like making music, you know? So it just, that's up for you to decide. And I wouldn't say necessarily what you do in high school influences what you do in college. You're just going to figure that out. Like, they say college is where you figure yourself out, and that is pretty much true.
I'm going to go off about that, about NCSSM. So, so basically talking about NCSSM, I think it's a good opportunity for people to apply to. And if you get in, it's a good opportunity for you to get accustomed to how college life is going to be, because it is a residential school. So you have to understand the independence in waking up for classes on your own, having the motivation to pursue like your own passions and what you want to do. And additionally, on top of that, like TJ was saying, I think apart from other schools, it gives you the ability to find more of what you're passionate about. It has more of the opportunities to see if you want to be able to do research. Like, opportunities of research are really important at NCSSM, and all of the class take courses like neuroscience and organic chemistry that other schools aren't able to offer. So in terms of how it prepares you for college life, it helps you develop that independence that is like crucial for success in college, along with helping you stay a step ahead in terms of being able to find what you're good at and what you're passionate about.
All right, any other questions? Who are you pointing at? Okay.
So what I heard is colleges look at the ranking. So for example, for NLO students, if they're in top 10, they'll get in UNC. That's what I heard. So is that true that they're going to look at the GPA? And that's the reason NLO kids are, students are in a rat race of taking more APs just to raise their GPA.
Good question.
What are they looking in the top 10? Is
Yeah.
it just the GPA?
Sam again, sorry.
I'm just telling the question.
Oh, okay. In the meantime, I guess I'll talk. So basically, yeah. What? Oh, he's good? Okay, never mind. Fine.
Sam, speak.
Me? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, personally for us coming from Raleigh Charter, it's a bit of a different experience because the class rank wasn't as explicit as it would be potentially at a public school. Well, I guess a larger public school like Edinburgh or Broughton, where it's directly on your transcript. For us, everything pretty much had to be inferred based on who you knew and what the counselor said. And they asked me to answer this because it just so happened that I was at the top. But I wouldn't say it factored really into anyone's ultimate decisions, largely because past a certain point, it was very obvious that all of the students were homogenous to a very high degree, right? The same kids that were in Model UN were the exact same kids in Science Olympiad, who were the exact same kids doing this and that. And so it really is just sort of another factor. It's important not to neglect it, but in terms of the question of, maybe I don't want to take this particular course because I might not do as well and then that'll affect my class rank, is honestly just not a question that should really come into mind. Because sure, you can get a lot of pride from being top 5 or whatever, but at the end of the day, there is so much more about personality that will go into these applications and these go into these applications that will go into these interviews, and for the rest of all of your lives and all of the students' lives, there is so much less emphasis on your actual statistics than who you are as a person. And I heard that people were saying that only the top 10 kids at Enloe go to UNC. That's not at all true. A very, very significant portion of Enloe goes to UNC, which is honestly a credit to Enloe because UNC is an excellent school, top 30, and that's and even then rankings within the colleges are sort of superfluous. So.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Okay, but to also build off what Sam was saying, at Raleigh Charter, we don't have class rank, so we are in that unique position. However, it is not necessarily a numeric formulaic thing. If I'm not top 10% at Enloe, I'm not getting into UNC. That is not a fact. That is a lie. There is no, if you're not within this, don't even think about it. Yes, it is true that if you're in the top 10% of a school, you're more likely to be accepted. But that's also because if you're in the top 10%, you're considered smarter, right? You're more likely to do other things. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily directly correlated. However, you're right. Unfortunately, especially at schools like Enloe, which are ultra competitive, you have to almost feel like you're racing for a higher GPA, which is unfortunate. However, I really preach that you don't force yourself to do that. I know it's different. I'm in a unique position. We went to Raleigh Charter. But the reason that I took APs especially was I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew is that I love sports, but that doesn't really do a lot. So I decided to take AP government, AP physics, just try and branch out, see if there's different classes that interested me. And I learned I still love sports, so I'm doing sports. But that's for later. But the idea is if you're taking these APs, it's going to boost your GPA, but by taking these classes, you're helping yourself. You're setting yourself up for college because these AP classes do knock off these credits that you need, these gen ed credits for college. It allows you to explore more. But I wouldn't say going back to the core of your question, this top 10% being a huge factor. I wouldn't say so.
Okay. I think he had a question that he wanted to ask before, but didn't get to. So.
One last two.
Thank you. I wanted to check, most of the kids who want to be in the high school, obviously they don't get an opportunity to be in the leadership at this different club levels in the school. So I want to know what kind of advantage they would have in being in a leadership roles outside of the school in some nonprofit organizations, and also if they are doing any course, or like I would say some kind of trainings at a different, I would say maybe at a robotic club organization that is outside. So how value added would that be, doing it outside versus doing in the school only? Thank you.
So that's a very good question, and to answer it, doing something like that outside of school is actually excellent. The logo that you guys all have on your stickers right now, this little turtle, is actually the logo of our nonprofit. So we started one, I think 2 years ago.
I made that.
Okay, thank you. But colleges love seeing that type of thing. Like, they love seeing students having the initiative to start something and build something from the ground up and sticking through with it. Yeah, like, Shrieker started off as like a leader in Key Club at school, so volunteering at school. But then he joined like our nonprofit and has like helped us build it up a lot. And now he's like a pillar of our nonprofit. So he's expanded outside of school and he's working with us and doing volunteering outside of school. So that added like some complexity and like personality to his application.
Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, leadership positions in school are good, but the word leadership again is very open-ended. Like, you can be a leader in pretty much any activity that you're doing outside of school, too. Like, I could say that I'm like the lead guitarist of my band. Like, that counts as being a leader because you're taking initiative and doing something to lead a group of people, right? So I'd say like doing things outside of school has just as much, if not more, value than doing things inside of school, having leadership positions inside of school. Because obviously colleges can't expect every single student at a school to have a leadership position at school, right? So they're looking for something that you're passionate about, that you actively lead inside or outside of school. So I'd say, yeah, that definitely has a lot of value to it, and you shouldn't discount that at all. Definitely like put that in your applications or whatever.
And you'd mentioned robotics in Robotics Club. Sam was actually part of Robotics Club for all 4 years of high school, and he has some thoughts to share. Go ahead.
Yeah, so specifically about robotics, I guess like between like what is like sort of Robotics Club and doing FIRST Robotics, I'd say either one is really strong, and I've met a lot of people here who were involved in robotics simply because there's so much you can do. And so it's really important just to like not really be concerned about the leadership position, but more about developing your skills in a particular area. And so that's why like so I again advocate robotics, because there's like marketing involved, there are business aspects involved, but there's also the technology, and there's just the coordination of people. And so all those things are really necessary for any job that you would do. And that's, I think, what you should focus on in terms of finding yourself in leadership positions.
All right, next question.
She's been raising her hand for a while. So.
Thank you very much, first of all, for all of you. I have a 6th grader and a 9th grader. All of this information has been really grateful, but also overwhelming. There is no cookie cutter plan that we can put together looking at the next 4 years for both the kids. So my question is, would you recommend college counseling, hiring college counselor, or would you recommend to go to the student counselor at the school and work with them? What would help these kids?
If you want to say something, you can too. But so that's a very good question, because I know a lot of people are feeling the same way, I'm sure. We gave you a lot of information today, and I cannot imagine how overwhelmed a lot of you are probably, because there's so much that goes into this process. It's like it's insane, and like especially like senior year of high school was like super overwhelming, I think, for all of us, because we had so much stuff going on, college applications and trying to get good grades. So in terms of like the cookie cutter formula, again, like you said, there's no cookie cutter formula. If you do these 4 things, you're not guaranteed to get into UNC Chapel Hill or NC State or anything like that. There's no formula, right? So that's like a lot of people are worried, like, oh, there's no formula, like what should we do? Should we seek out help or something like that? I'd say it's not a bad thing to seek help if you feel like you might want to hire a college counselor or something like that, but honestly, from my personal opinion, I think I can speak for everyone else here, I don't think it's really worth it to hire a private college counselor or a private high school counselor or something like that, because what colleges are looking for, like 100% of the time, is just like genuine like authenticity from people that are applying to their schools, right? They want to see you as yourself, like purely as yourself. Like you don't really want to you don't want to let other people's inputs influence the way that you do your college applications as much as you think, right? So honestly, my advice for that is just let your kids kind of take their course, find out what they're passionate about, let them find out what they're passionate about, you find out what they're passionate about too, and maybe you can help them figure out how best to frame it in their application. But long term, it should be up to them to figure out what they're really interested in, what they want to write their essays about, the classes that they want to take, the grades that they want to get. That's all going to be up to them. So I'd honestly say hiring a college counselor or something like that would kind of not do as much help as you would think that it would. I'd just say like keep it kind of like let them do their own thing.
Is it going to affect their progression to the colleges?
Okay, so sorry, that was very loud. I mean, because that was that slide that I.
You asked about math. Could you repeat your question?
Say, doing math 1 in the 9th grade, is it going to affect their progression to the...
Okay, so although I spoke before, when I said that you should aim to start 9th grade doing math 3, that, what school does your daughter go to? So is that a semester, like semester-based? Then you're fine. Because we went to Raleigh Charter High School, so we had one schedule for the whole year. So in that system, if you take Math 3, then you take pre-calc the next year, then Calc AB, and then Calc BC. But if you're in a semester schedule, then you have the flexibility to have another math class next semester. And so you can like potentially take up to like 5 or 6 math classes. So you can get up to there. So it's not a big deal. Just if you're aiming to be in the STEM field, definitely try to take AP Calculus, AB, and BC. Do very well in them and try to get a high score on the AP exam so that it counts for college credit.
But yeah, you shouldn't be worried, is what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Because I just want to, like, the main reason that you have these are for college classes, like, there's a prerequisite that you need to take a certain math class. But if you have to take that math class in college and then take those classes, you're just adding on to the amount of work and time. So what we're saying is, if you can knock that in high school, you know, where the classes are easier than college, because there's not 200 kids to one professor, there's 25, you know? If you can knock that out in high school, then it just makes it a bit easier. It's the end of the world if you're not in that situation. Like, we want to emphasize that.
Okay, we're going to try and speed things up because we don't have much time left, and we're going to try to get to as many people as possible. So
Yeah. So we'll get you next.
So I had a question about the different like programs offered at school. So at my school we have an IB program and we have an AP capstone program. So we get like extra diplomas if we like finish those courses. So yeah, like IB and AP capstone. So how much, like if we do those, how much weight would that add to our college applications and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So at our school, we didn't have an IB program, but in college, me and Shrieker have met people at NC State who did an IB program in their high school. And honestly, like talking with them, it seems that like courses that you'd expect to be equivalent from AP to IB and college are actually not so. Like an IB course, like although like you think it would count for like, you know, a calculus credit because it was the IB version, does not give you like the college credit. Or maybe like a civics and economics class does not give you credit in the IB program. So there's like some discrepancies between IB and AP, so do research into like the specific classes and how colleges interact with those classes. But for AP, I can definitely speak on that, and I think it's great. Like, I have placed out of a lot of classes for it, and I'm appreciative of that. So definitely take AP classes if you're interested.
Yeah, I honestly think that like the thing about choosing classes is that you really shouldn't be worried as much about what's going to get you credit in college, because like a lot of colleges you'll just get nothing. Like I know, like for me, I have absolutely no credit. Like you don't get credit for anything in any meaningful way. And so it really is important to just think about the classes that are offered. And that's where the value of the IB program comes in, because you have things like theory of knowledge, which is just like a course that will get you really cultured and make you a more engaging person as a whole. And they have like other classes like further maths and like which goes through like discrete math like set theory, and there's just so much more you can do with the IB program. So I'd say that if there are courses that you can't find within the AP curriculum that there are there in the IB program, just take them. You'll never lose.
I want the panelists to stand up and point the mic. So because we need to hand over the mic, so you tell the where to hand over. Because audience backside they are raising their hand. So please make sure.
Yeah, one question.
Let's start.
Okay, thanks for all the information. And I have my son who is in 10th grade, and he's not very sure whether he should go for the engineering side or the medicine side yet. Okay, how much time do you think he have before he has to make up his mind, going one way or the other because of the internships and other things that they need to do?
So based off the choices that you've outlaid, medicine or engineering, you should probably like let him take more AP classes, I guess, or let him take more classes that helps him decide like what he's interested in. And then when he heads to college, let's say he gets into NC State for the engineering program and he hates it, he can always change to medicine as well, because as we said in the slideshow, pre-med or like to go to medical school, pre-med isn't a major. Like he can be in like a computer engineering like track, but as long as he takes like the medicine prerequisites, like he can be like Shrieker, except Shrieker's taking econ instead of human biology. He can be doing like, I don't know, computer engineering, and then also take the pre-med requisites as well. So he can have the best of both worlds if he can't make up his decision in time.
Basically, there is no timeline. Like you can even switch in your second year of college.
Yeah, you can decide in your second year of college if you want to. There's plenty of time.
I think that in terms of like engineering or medicine, I think it's harder to get into engineering schools because they're usually like very specific for engineering. So like Viterbi at USC or like engineering school at Duke that I forgot its name, but like it's just like engineering schools in general are harder to get into much specific. So I feel like if you want to go into engineering, you should probably pursue that route, because medicine and pre-med is something that's easier to be, that you can easily change into. But engineering, if you like don't get into school, it's very hard to become an engineer. And it's harder to get into like an engineering school than to do pre-med. So like that, I would probably suggest that if he's like super apprehensive about the two, that he should probably apply to engineering. But also he probably has plenty of time, so it's okay.
Yeah, over here. He's had his hand up for a very long time.
Hey, thank you so much for the information. I have a couple of questions. One is, what if a student is not into sports and he's more of a performing arts person, like he's more into music and theater and all that. And when you write an essay, like when you do a sport and you win and you get a medal, that's something that goes into your essay, that there is a proof that you have done it. But when it comes to something which is not competitive in that level, but you have to highlight it on your essay, is there some kind of documentation or something that would be required to show that you actually did it?
No, there's not.
Wait, he's doing this, right?
Oop.
No.
My question is more about in the process.
So Suraj is right now doing.
Yeah, so basically, if you remember, they were talking about the Common App. So basically, on that, there's actually a list of like activities that you can put. So like, how you do is you kind of like order activities based on like how important they are to you. So if that's like something that's really important to you, you're able to even put in like how many hours you spent on this and like what it kind of means to you. You have a little description box. And especially if this is like a meaningful activity for the kid, I believe that you can even like devote a whole essay or even your Common App to it, because you really want to emphasize the passion that you have for this activity in your application. So there's definitely like ways to make sure that your passion for something does shine out in your application.
So again, I want to mention Suraj just submitted his Common App, and he's actually going through the college process right now, so he's the best person to ask questions to. And again, if you guys don't know the NTSSM program, it's a really, really exclusive school. It is the top school in the state. You have to apply to get into it. You have to write. It's pretty much like a college application: SAT scores, activities, and your GPA. So it's pretty much you're going through the college application twice. Getting into it is really hard, and Surge is in there. So if you guys have specific questions about how the college process was this year or how he's feeling at NTSSM, go ahead and ask those questions too.
Okay.
And like to properly say like no, there's no documentation specifically that you need to turn into the Common App. If you did it and you write a good essay about it, that's more than enough for them to think, okay, he's really involved in this. He really loves to do this.
Okay. Can be a follow-up to the same question.
Sure.
Like in the process, like he's a middle schooler right now. So in the process, is there something that we have to keep in mind? Like having that college thing in, like I'm just trying to figure out, like I just don't want things to be late. Like if he is competing in some outside the school competition and he wins it, and is there some kind of thing that I have to keep in mind, or some information, that some pamphlet or something with his name on it?
So in regards to the arts, there's two parts. There's music and arts itself. In regards to music, you usually put, like one of my friends, he got into Duke this year actually. He's a great violinist. You can put that you were the second chair or the first chair, and you can put all the awards. And in terms of performing arts and art, Katie is actually an art student, and she did go to USC with that in mind. So there's actually specific steps called the art portfolio, which he's going to go over.
Most schools have a slide program, which is the program with the youth art portfolio, so you can submit like video recordings if you're a musician, or physical pictures of the physical art if you're an artist, like a fine artist. You can also submit like videos of dancing and whatnot. So most schools usually provide that. It's an extra fee, usually about $10 to $15 extra. Some schools, like UCLA, if you're applying directly for the arts program, the fee would be greater, like $70. And some schools do not offer an art portfolio, but most schools do.
And to answer your second question, like, no, you don't need any documentation. Like, if they get third.
So, as she said, you do need documentation. Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, are you asking in general or for performing arts? Sorry.
For performing arts.
Okay,
Performing
my bad,
arts,
my
you
bad.
do, as she said, you need video and like music files. So my friend who did do violin, he sent in music files. Katie did art, so she actually sent in her physical artwork. So you do need proof, and they will judge it based off of that.
Like I want to clarify again. Like this is only if your child is like applying to like an arts major in college. If you're talking about it as just an extracurricular, like a hobby or something that you want to put on your application, you don't need any specific documentation or anything like that.
Makes sense.
You only need documentation if he's applying to be like an art major or something like that.
Okay. Another question is about scholarship. I'm sorry. Okay, about scholarship. Like when you said you applied and you started looking for scholarship like pretty early, I just want to know like what the process is. Like, is there something that we have to do in the process, like which will help us get a scholarship? Like getting a scholarship is a different thing. Like you are looking for it, but what do you actually do to get it?
Okay, so yeah, that again depends a lot on the specific scholarship that you're applying to, because a lot of them are different. So for me, for example, like if you're looking at something like the Park Scholarship or the Moorhead Kane at UNC, which they're both like full tuition, full ride scholarships, you wouldn't be paying anything. Those are very big scholarships, so there's a lot of different stages to those application processes. So the first thing you do is you submit an application, like a written application. It's very similar to something that you would send to a college as like a college application. They ask you to write like a few essays, and then they try to get to know who you are as a person. And once you're done with that step, they'll call you back for like an interview. So you'll wait like maybe like a month or so, and then they'll say, oh, you're like a semifinalist, we'd like to invite you to an interview. And then they'll invite you, and then you'll get interviewed, and then depending on whether they like you as a person through your interviews or not, you'll get called back to a finalist interview, and then they'll interview you again with a different group of people. And then once they interview you from that pool, then they'll let you know after that whether you got the scholarship or not. So it's a very long process. So if you're thinking about applying to like the big ones like the Park or the Moorhead Kane, definitely start thinking about them as soon as possible, because you have to apply for them pretty early. Like the application for the Park was due a couple weeks before my application was due for NC State. so I had to turn in the park application before turning in my NC State application. So just always look out for deadlines and everything like that. Just keep those in mind.
And in addition to those big scholarships, like the full ride scholarships that are school specific, there are third-party scholarships from like $200 to like $20,000. And they could be as simple as write a 500-word essay, or write like a short story, or invent something and send a video of it in. Like, there are different kind of websites. You can just Google like scholarship finder or something. There'll be different like websites. You can make an account with them, and it'll match you up to scholarship opportunities. You can just read the requirements, do it real quick. Like sometimes it might only take like an hour to apply for a scholarship that you could win, that could give you like $5,000. So there are a lot of opportunities, so just be on the lookout.
Okay, so at USC, I'm on the presidential scholarship, which means that I get half tuition, and this is actually a national merit scholarship. So during your, I think it's your junior year, you take the PSAT, and if you get a qualifying score, then you can apply to be a national merit finalist. And there are some schools that offer national merit scholarship benefits, like USC. So for me, once I put USC as like my school to receive the benefit, I automatically got half tuition. So that was really nice. So I get half tuition, and I also get $1,000 every single year towards my tuition from national merit. So if you're looking for a national merit school, there's some really good ones like USC or like I think American's a national merit school. And there's a list of them online, but basically you can get like pretty good benefits from the schools in terms of scholarships. And it's like the same amount as a lot of other presidential scholarships that had to be interviewed, but I didn't have to be interviewed, I just got it automatically.
All right, next question. Him, please. I'm sorry, he's had it up for like.
I'll keep it short. The question is, if you're interested in pre-medicine, how do you pick a college? Just because there's no major or college to apply for, right?
Yeah. There's actually a medicine track at UNC Chapel Hill that you can follow under.
Yeah, so like in terms of picking a college, you can look up like best pre-med schools, like or you can try and look through that list and then go to, like we said before, go to the specific colleges' websites and see like how well they're well renowned they are in terms of medicine and things like that. There's a lot of good medical schools, like schools that are good for pre-med, like in the area. Like UNC is obviously a very good example of that. It just depends on like what school your child really wants to go to, because pre-med is like you can kind of do pre-med anywhere, because you'll be learning pretty much the same stuff. And since you're on a track, like the major is, there's not going to be like a specific major. So it just depends on like where. I guess it gives you like more opportunities to like basically where you're getting the best opportunities, the best bang for your buck.
So essentially, like if primarily there's no place you should immediately go if you want to do pre-med. You can effectively do pre-med everywhere, but like one of my professors is he's a dean of our science and QR classes, as well as the I guess top admissions officer in the board for the Yale Medical School. And so I spent a lot of time with him, and what I've gathered is that in general, you'll fare better if you aim now in undergrad for a private school where you have sort of like more directed research opportunities. If you're looking at like an R1 research school, which you can Google, basically means they're sort of like the top like ranked research schools based on money from NIH funding. And so those are usually funnels towards medical school. But it's also important to keep in mind that the sort of nature of your undergrad doesn't determine your medical school, and there's so many other options aside from directly applying to med school after college. For example, there's FlexMed, which is a sophomore year program where you would be applying to Mount Sinai Med School in sophomore year, and you would be barred actually from taking any of the pre-medical requirements. And so there's a whole new wave of things that are being valued medical school admissions eyes. And so and that's all happening really fast and right now. So it's important to sort of stay up to date, and you can always Google the websites for the medical school that you're interested in, as well as emailing the direct offices.
Do you have any thoughts about early college high schools and how is it different from the normal traditional high schools?
Okay. So apart from NCS Assembly, I know there's like a lot of early colleges. Like, yeah. I think definitely they are a good like education source in terms of like they have a lot of other courses that some other schools won't have. But I think one of the main factors is the faculty that you actually get from this, because a lot of it is actually in terms of like just raw learning. You're able to get so much more out of a class when the student-teacher ratio is smaller, and when you're actually able to interact with your like counselor, talk about college and all that process. So I think it is worth it to be able to like apply to these schools, or sometimes even if you have to pay, sometimes it is worth it. But I think it's just all like a like payoff. Like you have to look at like what you're getting out of it. Specifically for NCSM, I mean, I definitely think it's a free school, so I definitely think it's a worthwhile shot to be able to apply, because we get so many opportunities in terms of to be able to do research or be able to take advanced classes and all the clubs that we get to be a part of. So yeah, I definitely think that they are worth it. But if anyone else wants to speak on that.
Yeah, so I know we all went to Raleigh Charter, but I have a friend. I'm gonna keep it brief. He's one of my close friends. He goes to UNC with me. He went to Wake early. And the advantages that he has is he's knocked out half his credits. He has all his gen eds gone. So that allows him to take different things. But it is an advantage, and I don't know any cons off the top of my head, but I also don't think it's a must do.
And our last question.
Anybody else? One last question? Yeah, could we get them?
The question is regarding H4 visa status students. So, for example, if the student goes to the college on H4 visa status, so they are not eligible for internship, paid internship. So, if they want to internship, so how can they get? They have to go to out of the country, or they may get unpaid internships.
Is there anything about H1 immigration?
But on the top, you're saying paid internships?
They are not eligible. H4 kids are not eligible for paid internships.
It's a student visa.
So what about unpaid internships?
Like,
yeah.
Are there any opportunities?
So there's a lot of opportunities with unpaid internships. I know, if you look at the medical track, a lot of my friends did not just unpaid internships, they just did volunteering. You can just email like doctors and stuff and ask them to volunteer at Rex or UNC Healthcare, or Shrieker actually did an internship through NIH. And there's a lot of things you can do like that, which is unpaid or just volunteer kind of internships. And paid internships versus unpaid internships don't really matter. Colleges look at them the same. It's more of what you do there. So you can go in even in as a volunteer and it'll be just fine.
So, like, do you know any website, something?
For internships, if you're looking, what grade are you looking for?
My son is right now in 11th grade.
I would look at...
My daughter is already studying in NC State University.
For your son, I would look for at NIH.
So NIH is actually a paid internship, so I don't know if he'll be eligible for that. But a good thing you can do is, like, if you're interested in like research, like scientific research, you can just literally go to any college's website. Like, you can go to the NC State website, the UNC website, the North Carolina Central University website. Look for professors who have research or who are doing research that you think you might be interested in, and just send them an email. Be like, hey, I read about your research and I'm really interested in it, and I would love it if I could work in your lab. I like don't need to get paid or anything like that. Because that's like there's not really like a specific like contract or anything between that. You can still say that you did it, but you won't have to worry about like not being eligible for it or anything like that.
But she's saying she's not getting unpaid internship through NC State University.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We don't know as much off the top of our head about that. So again, everyone, thank you guys so much for coming out here today. I would like to give a big shout out to our student volunteers in the back from Raleigh Charter. So thank you guys so much. I hope this was super helpful, and thank you for the 2 people that FaceTimed in. I was not just texting on my phone. I was just transcribing the questions to them. That's why I was on my phone the whole time. But again, shout out to them for coming in, and thank you for Serge, who actually drove out from NTSSM in Durham today. So again,
Oh yeah,
big props.
If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Yeah, if you have any questions
I'll be
for any
here
of
a
us,
little after.
feel free to ask.
Yeah, and thank you guys for coming again. Oh yeah, we can do that. Sounds good. Thank you guys.
Thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate your participation.